Welcome to our session on Find What You Are Looking For, Optimizing Search and Filtering in Apps. Today we will dig into search and filtering capabilities in configurable apps. I'm Beth Romero and I'm a product engineer on the ArcGIS Online team. Joining me are Matt Payne, another product engineer on the online team, and Ryan Liebed, a developer on the ArcGIS Online team. Today we'll be talking about three topics. First, we'll go over basic search configuration available in all configurable apps, and then talk about how to include other locators and enable feature search. Next, Matt will talk to us about filtering options available, and then Ryan will finish it off by taking a look at using the 4x JavaScript API to configure search. Identifying what users of your apps would need to search for is the first step in refining search. Depending on how your search tool will be utilized will help determine the next steps. So let's talk about a few common best practices to start. By default, the search tool is configured to search all search sources in your organization, and many times this is more than one search locator. The first best practice we recommend is to limit the number of locators available to app users. Most of the time, one search locator is recommended. Otherwise, too many options may confuse or they may not be aware that there are more than one option. If the search locators available in your organization are not suitable for your application, you may consider creating a locator view. This will help further refine the search experience. Locator views allow you to fine-tune and limit the search experience, and these can be added to your app. For example, if you would like app users to search for an address only, you may consider creating a locator view to remove the points of interest options since your desired experience requires just an address. Finally, another best practice would be to enable feature search if you'd like app users to be able to search for a specific feature. This search allows for a search to be completed off of a feature based on an attribute value. The feature is then highlighted and the pop-up value is opened. Let's take a look at how to actually configure some of these best practices. The first thing we're going to need to do is actually create our configurable app, and there we'll be able to refine search capabilities. So I'm going to select Create, Configurable Apps, and for the first example of limiting locators, we're going to create a zone lookup application to let app users find which school district zone they are in. Scroll down, I will select Zone Lookup, give it a name, and for the sake of time, I already have an app created with a map selected. So here you see a map of the Miami school districts. When you create a configurable app, it takes you into the Express settings. From here, since I have a map selected, I can go to Next, which will take me to the About tab, where I could populate information about this application and give direction to the app users. The next step is interactivity. The search configuration is always located within the interactivity section. So as you can see here, I have three locators available, and this is shown in the app by a dropdown. The app users could select different locators. For this app, all I really need them to do is enter in an address within the school district area to determine which school districts they are in. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the locators I don't need. And these locators are created or added within the organization properties. So now I'm down to one locator. From here, I can enter in an address. And it will show me which school districts I'm in. Now that I've determined that this is the locator that I want to use, I can also come in and edit it and further refine this locator. I could update the placeholder text to give more directive information. So for this example, I'm really looking for them to type in an address. I can determine how many suggestions are returned. I can also constrain the search within the map. I'm going to select that for this example because I want all searches to be within the Miami area. Click Done. And now if I were to try to type in the address of the Esri address in Redlands, eventually you'll see that nothing is returned because it's constraining the search within the map. The ArcGIS World Geocoding Service also searches points of interest. So that will search for restaurants, coffee shops, targets. So if I start typing in TA, I'll see that I can get Target, taxi. For my school district location, I want people to enter a residential address. So I'm not going to have them look for points of interest. And to remove results that they may not be interested in, I can create a locator view. So to do that, I'm going to go back to my content. From the Create menu, I will see I can create a locator view. So this creates a view of the ArcGIS World Geocoding Service. Let's create a new one. So give it a name. From here, I'm going to be able to customize the World Locator Service. So I can select in here, I want address, postal codes, and populated places. I'm not really interested in including coordinates or places of interest right now. I can select a specific area. I'll go ahead and set the area. There we go. So I'll keep it in my focused Southern Florida area. And that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Once I save that, I'm going to go back to the Overview tab. From here, I'm going to change the sharing level. Since my app will be shared with everyone, I need to also make sure my locator view is. And now I'm going to copy the URL, go back into my search configuration, and I'm going to add this as a new locator. I'm going to paste the URL in. Okay, and hit OK. I can give the locator a name. And now to kind of follow up on our earlier suggestion, I really only want one locator in here. So I can go ahead, I could either move it to the top, select that as a default, but I think something easier so there's no drop down here is to just delete the other locator. So there's only one in here and I can enter an address. So let's go ahead and type in an address and you'll see they're all focused in Miami. And now I will get the results and it will show me which school districts I'm in. Once you have the app looking the way you want, the next step is to publish it. So from here, I can just click the publish button, confirm, and now my app is published. So what I'm seeing in my preview window is what the published app will look like. Here's just a quick peek at the published app. And now my app is ready to use with my custom locator view. All right, let's move to a different app. Move on over here. This is our media map template. And in here, I have a map of historical plaques in Ireland. Let's click on a pop-up. And here I can see the name, I can see if there's a picture, I have links to more information. This map is really about exploring these historical plaques. So I want to create a search that allows me to search for the specific name of somebody who has a plaque dedicated to them. Within the media map configuration, I'm in the full setup mode. So within interactivity, I now have a couple more options than you previously saw in Express setup of zone lookup. But like I mentioned earlier, search is always within the interactivity section. So I'm going to go ahead and click search. And from here, I can add in a feature to search. So I'm going to click add from layer, and I want to select from the map, historical plaques. Once I click OK, I can now customize it. The field I want to search is the name field. I'm going to add that. And then I want it also to display the name. I'll keep it with 6 suggestions, and I'll enable suggestions. So let's go ahead and click done. So I'm going to remove the other service. So now we'll just search by historical plaques. Oh, I think one thing I forgot to add in here was a placeholder text. So I want them to enter a name so they know not to search for an address when they open it. All right, let's go ahead, click done. Now when I open the search, I'll be prompted to enter the name. So I'm going to start typing in a name. I'll see that I have suggestions. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And from here, you'll see that it opens the pop-up of the feature selected. So this is a really nice way that you can search for specific features in your map. And here I'll see that Rory Gallagher was returned, and that's what was in the search box, and I can see the information. So that kind of wraps up 3 best practices when using search.
Thanks, Beth. Now we'll discuss leveraging attribute filters in apps. An attribute filter presents a focus view of a feature layer in a map. You can reveal what's most important in your app by filtering out data that may not be as beneficial to a particular project. With configurable apps, you can let the app audience explore the data themselves using filtering functionality that is built into the app itself. You can also increase performance. Say you have a feature layer that has a lot of features and sometimes may take some time to load or draw within your app. Applying attribute filters to the data can help increase this performance. In this demo, I'll walk through 2 different workflows, the first of which will be setting up an attribute filter in the web map. We'll use the new map viewer in ArcGIS Online to do this, and then publish that web map using the minimalist configurable app. Next, I'll show how we can use the interactive legend configurable app to offer a filtering experience within the app itself. So now I'll jump into the demo. So here we have the new map viewer open up in ArcGIS Online, and the layer that we have is sub-watershed data in the LA area. What sub-watersheds are, they are smaller divisions that make up main watersheds. And so for this project, we want to add a few filters that show just sub-watershed features that are from specific main watersheds, and then furthermore show just sub-watershed features that are greater in size than 2 square miles in area. So the first thing I'll do to do that is activate the layer and then choose the filter tab. And then here's where I can compose the expression that will drive the attribute filters. So the first expression I'll create will be for determining which watersheds we want to show sub-watershed data from. So here's a list of all of the all of the fields from this layer. This watershed field here contains the information that we need, so I'll choose it. The condition here will be includes, and we get a list of all of the unique attribute values right here. And so I can choose which ones to include in the expression by clicking to turn them on. And you can see the map updates on the fly as I do this, which is nice so that you can kind of get your attribute filter set up how you like it before saving. So that looks good. So next we'll set the next expression for the area. In the data, the area field contains that information that we need. And I could use the histogram here to kind of drag the slider across the distribution of data. But we know we want it to be exactly 2 square miles or larger, so I'll type in 2. I like what I see, so I'll save the filters. And the map draws them, and this looks good here. And so now I'll save the web map. And then we will publish this into the Minimalist Configurable app. And to do that, we go to the content page of online, click the Create menu, and choose Configurable Apps, and we'll look for Minimalist. Here it is, and then I'll give it a title. Tags. And then when I click done here, the configuration panel for this minimalist app will launch. I've already preloaded that for us, so let me go over to there. So here it is. This is the configuration panel, and I've already pointed to the map that we just saved. And you can see the app already shows the or nicely shows the filters that we set up here in the map preview window. Over on the side, we have all of the different settings that you can apply for the app, such as adding some information, turning certain tools on and off. But I think all we'll maybe need to do today is just toggle on this pop-up panel option. Now what this will do is it places the pop-up information for a feature over here in the side panel. Publish. And then I will launch the published app. And what we'll see is the filter that we set up in the web map is shown here in the finished product app. And then I can interact with the features if I'd like by getting pop-up information, and it shows over here in the side panel just like we chose in the configuration. Okay, next I will show how the interactive legend configurable app can be used to offer a filtering experience within the app itself to the app viewers. So this is our same watershed layer that we used before, but since it's in a different map, none of the filters that we set are applied. And for this purpose, for this app, we actually don't have to set any filters here in the map. As mentioned, the filtering will be done interactively in the app. So I like what I see. I'll save this map, and this will be the map that we use in the app. Just like before, I'll go to a content page, create menu, configurable apps, and this time choose interactive legend. Same as before, give a title. And then clicking done will load the configuration for this app. I have that preloaded. And here you can see our map comes in, no filters applied because we did not apply any in this web map. I've already pointed to the web map. And what I do want to do is I do want to make a couple app setting changes. I'm going to go in here to settings on the legend, which is right here shown in the preview. I want to add a feature count, and what that adds is a count value of the amount of features that are currently shown in the map extent. It shows the total, and then also per attribute value, which will be used for the filtering. We get a total for each one of those. Next, I also want to add a zoom to button so that if I'm zoomed in and I change the filter, if I click the zoom to button, the app will zoom the map to show all of the features for that filter criteria. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and publish, confirm, and launch the published app. And what we will see is all of the features drawn just like we saved it in the web map. And now we will use the app to interactively do the filtering process. And it's as simple as just clicking items here in the legend on and off. So I will click to turn one on and the other ones hide, can turn several on. A second click removes those features from the filter. And if you notice, the counts that are in here are updated automatically if I zoom in and change the extent of the map. So if I zoom here, these counts will update, the total updates. If I change the filter criteria and I click the zoom to button, it zooms to the extent of that selection. So the Interactive Legend app is a really good way to offer an interactive filtering experience for the end user and kind of let the app viewer go beyond just turning layers on and off, but interacting directly here with the attribute values to filter data and explore. So next I will hand it over to Ryan to discuss configuring the search widget using the ArcGIS API for JavaScript.
Cool, thanks Matt. Now let's dive into the code and take a look at how to configure search using the 4x ArcGIS API for JavaScript. First, we'll be taking a look at the various properties that can be configured in the search widget, and we'll then take a look at how to configure both locator and layer search sources. Finally, we'll dive into a simple web map application which demonstrates the functionality of a configured search widget with configured search sources. When configuring the search widget, the first thing that I would do is take a look at the search widget documentation in the 4x ArcGIS JavaScript API SDK. There are some great code examples and working sample apps that can be very useful when building your web app. Here's some example properties to pass into the search widget on instantiation. The view, which is the view that's being rendered in your web app and has information on the map. Max results and/or max suggestions, if you would like to specify the number of max results or suggestions to return from the search widget. Sources, which are the sources that the search widget will be running the search against, and these sources can be layer search sources or locator search sources, which we'll talk more about later. The portal, which allows the capability to search a specified portal instance's locator services. Location enabled, which enables location services within the widget. If you take a look at the graphic on the right, you'll see the typical usage of search in the code. Here, we're just simply passing in the view, along with the sources property that has a single layer search source. And we're then adding the search widget to the view's UI. Now let's talk about search sources. Search source is a class from the JavaScript API which have subclasses locator search source and layer search source, which can be used to pass into the search widget's sources property. The sources property type is an array of either locator search source or layer search source. A locator search source contains properties that define a source pointing to a locator which can be used to geocode locations with the search widget. Layer search source contains properties which define a layer-based source whose features can be searched with the widget. Now that we've talked about search sources, let's go further into layer search source as an example, since that is what we'll be configuring in the sample web app. In the sample app, we'll be configuring a layer search source to pass into the search widget. Then we'll be configuring the layer search source even further to return a more specific subset of results. This can be done with the filter property, which takes an aware clause. If you take a look at the graphic on the right, we're instantiating the layer search source class. We're then passing in the layer, placeholder text, a display field, which is a field that will be used when displaying results, search fields to search by, the name of the source, max results and suggestions, and a filter. Now let's see this in action in a sample web app application. Here we have a sample web map application. This app has a configured search widget where we can search for different power plants across the globe. You'll notice that the widget has been configured with some placeholder text instructing to search by country. Let's try searching for a power plant in the United States. Here are some suggested results, and you'll notice that the names of the power plants are being used as the display field for each of the results. Power plant 85A is a wind power plant. Power plant AB Brown is a coal power plant. But what if I want to filter my results by just hydro power plants? I've now updated the code where I've reconfigured the search widget to return hydro power plant results only by using the filter property. So if I go back into search, I'll go and search for the United States. I'll click on the first result. You'll notice that the field type is of hydro. Now let's try this again with the next result. Hydro again. And we'll try it one more time. Nice. It looks like the filter's working. Now let's take a look at the code and see how this is done. So here's the code of the sample web map application that I demonstrated. It's just your typical HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. In the HTML file, we'll have references to the 4x JavaScript API, some style sheets to make the app look a little nicer, an app header, a container for the map, and a reference to the JavaScript file, which will contain the logic to configure the search. And here's just some basic styling in the CSS file. And now let's take a look at the logic in the JavaScript file. So at the top, we'll be pulling in some modules from the 4x JavaScript API, and we'll be doing that with require. The different modules we'll need is the map view, the web map, the search, the layer search source, some wash utils, and the legend and expand widgets. So the first thing that we'll want to do is create the web map, and we'll be doing that by specifying a web map ID in the webmap.portalitem.id. After that, we'll go ahead and instantiate a map view, and we'll need to pass in a container and set the value to the ID of the DOM element and the map. Once we've created the map and the map view, we'll go ahead and set a watcher on view.map.layers. And on the change event, we'll then know that there's a layer on the map. We'll then get the first layer in the map, which will then pass into layer search source. And in layer search source, we'll also set some placeholder text. We'll also set a value for the display field, set a couple search fields to search by, the name of the layer search source, some numerical values for the max results and max suggestions, and finally, the filter property, which will have a where clause, which will allow us to filter by only power plants with the field type of hydro. And if we look at the where clause, we'll be searching by the field name of field 1 and its value of hydro. So now that we have the layer search source configured, we can now instantiate the search widget. We'll pass in the view that was created earlier. In the sources property, we'll set that to an array, and within that array, we'll pass in layer search source. We'll go ahead and set include default sources to false, so that we'll only be searching by the layer search source that we created. And we'll also pass this into the expand widget so we can expand and collapse the search widget. And just for some additional context to the map, I've also added in the legend widget, passed in the view, and also did the same thing by passing it into the expand widget. Down here, I've now added the widgets to the UI. And as a quick summary, we've learned how to configure the search using the 4x JavaScript API. We've looked at the various properties that can be configured in the search widget. And we've also dove into a web map application, which demonstrates the functionality of a configured search widget along with a filter. And we've also walked through the code of how it was done.